So, Peter, last week we had an Indian band who claims that you don't need to be Indian when you're hitting it big abroad in the Western world. That was one of the things that we talked about with Nolan Lewis of Cryptos, but that was last week's episode.
Yeah.
And this week we have somebody who is an Indian and who's doing something in the metal world, but that's quintessentially Indian in a way.
Yeah, it actually the first time I heard it, I was also a little like scratching my head, like what's going on with this guy?
Of course, we are talking about Rishabh Seen, who is a very young sitar player who now has a new act called Sitar Metal.
Yeah.
And the word Sitar Metal actually leads me to what I was also thinking of as a way to introduce this episode, which was how many band names can you remember which actually define what the music that they play in the band name itself?
Doom, I don't know.
Think about it. There's what? Metallica, definitely. Metal Church, Death.
Yeah, Death.
Demonic Resurrection, if you think demonic metal is a genre of metal.
Shout out, Sahil. Yeah, dude. It's a bit like... trying to think.
So you had that one serious opening idea and you have the second lame as jokey opening idea, and both are included because I really didn't know what else or how else to introduce this episode. And that's because Rishabh does such a beautiful job of explaining in this entire interview of what the basis of Sitar Metal is, his idea behind amalgamating or marrying the two worlds of Hindustani classical music and rock or metal, and just why Sitar Metal is something that should be identified as a new subgenre of metal of sorts.
I love where he's coming from. That's the thing. I mean, I first watched him when he did his covers, and then to see him switch over to Mute the Saint, and now to see the evolution to Sitar Metal. But what I would like everyone who's listening to this, before you go on and listen to the rest of the episode, go look up Sitar Tempting Time cover. Dude, that cover blows your mind. It puts a lot into context. Like while preparing for this episode, watched it. And you watch it and then you realize that this is an 18-year-old who's been listening
at that time.
Yeah, at that time.
Mind
who's
you.
been listening to like metal for
back.
who's been listening to metal for a couple of years.
No, man. No, what?
He was listening.
At that time. Again, at that time.
Yeah. So, and it still resonates. I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot of people who watch that video going like, holy shit, what's going on, right?
Yeah, definitely. And to add to your list of instructions to how our audience, whatever that audience is, should listen to this episode, let me add this. It's almost a chronological retelling of Rishabh Seen's journey. So while he's narrating his journey, I'd actually recommend you guys pause the episode, go to YouTube or wherever else you listen to your music, listen to a bunch of that music, and then come back and then continue, because it'll actually help you understand what Sitar Metal is and just why Sitar Metal needed to happen at this point in time in Rishabh Seen's life and hence in our lives too.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Alright, I think we've prepped our listeners
way more than usual this time around. So here you go. Here is Behind the Scene with Rishabh Seen.
And I'd like to welcome Rishabh Seen to Horns Up. Welcome, Rishabh. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Animesh. Great to speak to you guys. Thank you. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm all good.
All right. So, thanks for taking time out. And, before we get into like Sitar Metal and everything that you've been up to the last few weeks or so, let's get to know you a bit better. So, your family is rooted in music and you're a third generation musician. So I'm assuming you were exposed to music at a very young age?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So like, as you said, I'm the third generation of musician from my family. So my grandfather played the tabla. Then my father made a transition and he started playing the sitar. So yeah, when you're born in such a family, like I remember, like there's photos of me, like my father has shown me, like I was 4 and 5 and I was playing like a toy sitar. So it's like that's how early I started, in music. And yeah, so that's like my first memories of my life are actually rooted in music, like either hearing my father or just playing with like a tabla or a harmonium or a sitar, you know. And that's like a cliche, like upbringing of a classical musician. Like it's just music, That's all I knew. Yeah,
Okay, but I'm sorry, there's no easy way to ask this, but please humor me on this one.
sure.
Was your house accepting of all forms and genres of music?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like this is the crazy part. Like for the like it was so weird, man. Like when I started, like okay, I've been playing this sitar and Indian classical music in general for over like 12 years now. And I was doing it for a long time, and I was performing, and I had everything going for me. And then when I discovered metal back in like 2011, 11, 12, it took me a long time to even tell these guys that okay, fuck, I listen to this kind of music, and I did like an experiment. So one day I was just listening to Gojira, and like they just go all the way. So I just finally decided that okay, I'm not gonna hear it in headphones. I'll just put it on some speaker, and I did it. And my father dropped into the room, and he said, "Ye tal kaun sa? Like what tal is this?" Because he was counting the beats and stuff, and they are prog, so so they play with a lot of grooves and stuff. And he actually liked Gojira, like, and my just
Oh,
mind just went out of the roof. Like I was like, "Fuck!" Like, okay, this is like it doesn't get more brutal than Gojira, like for at least in my household. So I was like, okay, if he likes this, then he's up for anything. And then I was like, okay, Dad, just come here, just sit. I'll just want to show you a few things. And then I showed him Animals as Leaders, and I showed him Metallica and Slipknot, and Rammstein and like everything. So yeah, he was very like approving of all this, and even so, like my mother also. So I like even now I think everything I've done is just because like these guys never even said a single word like to me, like okay, don't do this, or don't get a blue sitar because there's no one uses a blue sitar. Like they never stopped me in anything. So yeah, man, like that is the biggest gift to me. Like my household, it's like music all time. There's no limit on like how loud I can play, or what I can hear or anything. So yeah, like that is where everything is coming from. It's just the family support that I have, and it's incredible. Some other level of support. Yeah.
That's fantastic
yeah,
to hear.
yeah,
Yeah,
your
man.
parents sound like really cool people. But I know you
Yeah.
mentioned making your dad listen to Gojira. How did you
Yeah.
discover rock, metal, and even gent?
Yeah. So my thing, I'm still, like I've realized this slowly and slowly. Like I'm not like I'm like an old school guy. Like I started with Nirvana, so that was the first band that I heard, and I remember specifically I was hearing Nirvana live at Reading Festival, and like Kurt was wearing like a whole hospital gown and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
this is coming from a guy like I, being a classical musician. I just okay, you have to kind of try to understand this. Like I never even knew something like this exists in the world because I am a guy of ragas and talas, and it's a whole different world. Classical is a whole different world. People
Hmm.
don't even talk in English. Like forget like music which is written in English. Whatever. So
Yeah.
I was like a Shairi guy, and Shairi guy hearing like Nirvana for the first time, you can see the whole, the cultural clash that I was hearing. And when I heard it, I was like, damn, what the hell is this? Like, and he was like, there's a shot of Kurt Cobain, and he's like spitting on camera, and I was like, wow, like the level of freedom in this musical form is some other level, man. Like this guy is just going for whatever he wants to do on stage. Like, I mean, okay, music is one thing, but then life is another thing. I want to
Uh-huh.
do something where I can also go on stage and play music, but then also go wild and, like jump and, like fall and, get up and then just go at it. So when I heard Nirvana, I just like instantly my like life was changed. I was like, okay, damn, like this is some other universe. And I did that, and then I got into like Foo Fighters and like Smashing Pumpkins, Soundgarden, stuff like that. This was 2012. So
Okay.
then I just got onto this one band that even to this day, there's nothing like this band that lights me up, and that band is Slipknot. And
Whoa.
when I heard
Okay.
Slipknot, yeah, and I was like, oh man, now this is like 1000x of Nirvana. Like, now Slipknot, like these 9 guys, and there's nothing that can stop these guys. Like they just go on stage and they just go nuts. I don't care about like if it's technical or whatever. I just know one thing. When I hear Slipknot, I have this drive to do stuff in my life. It just drives me a lot. And even to this day, it's the same thing. You put any Slipknot song, I'm like up for anything. Like so Slipknot was my entrance to metal, technically. And that was also 2012. And then I started discovering, like heavier bands like Behemoth, like Gojira, and like tons of stuff, man. And then prog was the final destination for me.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it started with like hardcore, like whatever you call it, heavy metal, thrash metal, whatever. And then Slipknot, and then I got into the progressive side of the whole scene.
All right.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about this, but I want to just delve into this a little bit more. What exactly was it about rock and metal that fascinated you? I mean, I'm prefacing this because I think, and this may be completely wrong, but for a lot of us, it's about the aggression and the animalistic appeal of the music. But for you, someone who's trained musically, classically trained, does it have that same appeal, or is it something more?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's two aspects of this, and it took me like a really long journey in life to like realize what exactly is what drives me to hear metal. So it's two things. First of all, of course, when I hear progressive metal, like Animals as Eaters and stuff like that, the first thing that is, it's the music. Because when I heard Animals as Eaters for the first time, I was like, okay, this, what I'm hearing right now, I don't know where it falls in your theory thing, but for an Indian classical musician, this is ragas. Like I don't know if those guys know it, but if like an Indian classical musician hears their music, for them it's like a raga, like they're playing stuff in ragas, and that's what like pushed me to actually try this on a sitar, because it was in a raga that I really love. Like the first song I did, Tempting Time, is in a raga called Kirwani, and I love that raga in classical music. So I was like, okay, let me try and play this. So the first thing is obviously music. There's like so much to do this, and there's this other thing also in classical music. Everything that we do on stage, even if I play for 1 hour or 3, I've done shows for like 4 hours straight as well, in like a better, in like a house, thing, which is very private and stuff. And we play for 4 hours, and it's everything is improvised. Every single note I play is improvised. It's off the top of my head. And that's classical music, But when I heard progressive metal, I was like, okay, these guys are doing everything that I do, but in like 5 minutes. They are going through tempo changes, they are going through like melodic changes, and they are so free to do that in like 5 minutes, and they can tell the whole story in 5 minutes. So that was my first thought. Okay, I take 4 hours to tell a story. If I learn to write this kind of music, I can do all that in 5 minutes. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was, so I'm like the second thing for me was, I'm an extreme person. I love when I see someone, and just the way they talk or the way someone dresses or what they eat, is, if it's extreme, I just love like people who just go nuts, like for example, just take like, for example, it's a very cliche thing, like for example, Kanye West. Like I fucking love that guy. I just love him because you know what, like I don't care like how egoistic anyone is, it's their own problem. But people who come into this life and they live an extreme life, like he's absolute version of Kanye West, he's not 99% Kanye West, he's 100% Kanye. And same with Slipknot. Like when I see Slipknot, it's 100% Slipknot. They're not holding anything back. So for metal, that is what metal like stands for me. It's being extreme and being, like I can be the full version of myself. I don't have to hide anything. So that is like one of the major reasons for me. And the other thing I want to say is, I don't know why people hate aggression. Like aggression is a good thing, man. Like the release of it is, so healthy. There's this very nice piece by Flea when he was inducting Metallica into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He said like metal music is the healthiest release of something which is potentially destructive. Like if you don't release anger, it's gonna come out in the form of like you hurting someone. So it's better to take it out on music than to hurt someone. So yeah, all these things, like I always keep all this stuff in perspective. Like of course everyone feels anger. Every person who's ever been born in this world at some point wants to slap the other person. It comes around at some point. So rather than doing that, you just go write a song, go on stage, play it, like lose your fucking mind, headbang, and then you come back and you're all relaxed. So like yeah, it's life also. Like I love how metalheads can just go on stage and just be extreme and just let it all out and then be as calm and normal in the normal life. So yeah, it's music and it's the performance aspect.
All right.
And
I know
also
you
like I
brought
would
this.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing. Like, I know like a lot of people will not take his name, and like it's like weird to talk about this stuff. But like Kanye West, like the reason I love him is I don't like every person has some form of ego. Okay, like we all have to agree it.
Uh-huh.
Like every person has it, you know. So what is the problem with someone who has 5%, someone who has 50? You have 5 years, 50, so it's fine. It's we're all in the same, in the same life. But he like the stuff he does is 100% Kanye stuff. Like that is what I love in people and in bands and in music. Like people who are just unapologetically themselves. I love that. I don't care if it's like good or bad. I love that that person is being like a full version of himself.
Yeah,
So like
and
yeah.
sometimes that's what you require to create long-lasting, great art.
Yeah, man. Otherwise, if you keep floating here and there, it's not gonna like I did that. I wanted to write at some point. I wanted to write, like whatever sell, yeah, like sometimes like post rock and whatever. But then I was like, no, man. Like I can do this, but then I won't survive for long. After 5 years, I'll be done. And I don't want. I'm not here for like 5 years. I just want to keep doing this till my hands work.
All
Yeah.
right. So I just want to take you back to about 4 years ago, and I
Uh huh.
very clearly remember this. You brought
Mm-hmm.
it up in this earlier question you answered,
Mm-hmm.
where you talked
Mm-hmm.
about your cover of Animals as Leaders, Tempting
Mm-hmm.
Time. I still
Yeah.
remember the hype around that. And I
Yeah.
wasn't living in India at the moment. And I still remember people talking about it. There was a whole buzz, and they were like, what the fuck is going on? There's someone
Yeah.
covering Animals as Leaders on a
Yeah.
sitar. So
Yeah.
just take me back to that time where like you recorded it.
Wow.
What were your expectations at that time, man?
Yeah, actually, there's a fun thing. Like where I'm standing right now is the exact spot where I recorded the video. I'm in the same room actually, so it's very, it's a very fun thing to remember. Yeah, man. Like this was, imagine like 2014. Like I was like too young. I was still in the classical world. I was just hearing. I was like 3 years into metal, and I was discovering this prog side of the whole, like metal subgenres, whatever. So I discovered Animals Leaders, and then so what I do is like what I like to do is if it speaks to me on a level of my life, if it relates to me really, only then I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I just don't want to do stuff that I just wake up one day and I want to do it. I just make sure like it has something to offer and show about my life as well. So at that point of time, I was actually in a lot of bands. I was doing a lot of fusion, bands. I was featuring on a lot
Mm-hmm.
of artists. So I saw this attitude. Like I was when I did that, I was 17 when I released that video, or 18, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
at that point, I was like, playing with a lot of bands, and I saw this attitude problem. Like a lot of guitar players would come to me, and I would just face this like this subtle like, okay, like you don't matter, that kind of an attitude. And it's fine, everyone is free to do whatever they want to do. But it just went to a point where I was like, damn, man, like what is up with these people? Like this was the first time I was talking to like rock metal scene people, like for the first time. Like I was 18 and I was suddenly into this scene now, the rock metal scene. And this attitude, it just killed me from inside, man. I still remember, like I would go into a jam pad to jam, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever band, I won't name them, but like whatever band I was playing with, they would just give me the shittiest amp in the room just because I was a guitar player. And I was like, hey, like why did the guitar player get that amp and I got this amp? Like what is this thing? Like can I get like at least basic respect? And it just happened for a very long time. I saw all this stuff happening. So I was like, okay, fuck this. Like if they think sitar is not cool, let's make it cool. Like that was literally what happened. Like I was like, okay, fuck, I'll show these guys. Like I'm not less than anyone. Like okay, guitar is great, it's like amazing, but okay, I'll show you what sitar has to offer. So I was like, okay, what is the craziest like guitar music I can get my hands on right now in rock metal? Because I don't want to do anything else. Like rock metal is
Mm.
great, classical and rock metal is fine. So I was like, okay, Animals Leaders, and then I heard them, and it was like I understood nothing. I just got nothing for the first time. But then I just sat with it, and I started like hearing some overlapping stuff, which is the classical stuff. Like
Okay.
for me, when I hear them, I a lot of times I just hear classical music being played on like 100 times tempo or whatever.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, let's pick one song. And I remember it took me 22 days to cover the first song, Tempting Time. For 22
Wow.
days, I just zoned in into a room. I just like took that song, I just put it in Ableton and just started like with riff by riff by riff. Like I started doing that. And then like after 22 days, I was done, and I was like, okay, this is ready to like take this out, and let's show like sitar is no less than anything else out there. And I did it. And there's a fun fact also. Like when I released that video, before that I released a teaser of that video, and that teaser got like 35 views. And I was like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. Because I don't expect youngsters to hear sitar, because no one gives a fuck about the sitar unless someone comes around and makes it, the thing. So I was like, okay, let's still put out the full music video. And when I put the full video out, like the next morning, it was on like News 18 and like fucking Metal Injection and Loudwire and shit like that. And I was like, damn, this is insane. I couldn't believe the next morning. Like I woke up and everything was different. I had like fucking 1,200 requests and shit like that, and like messages were flowing in. And then all these big magazines, they just reached out to me. They were like, okay, Rishabh, we have seen your video. Can you do more of this? And we can create like a deal or something like that where we'll pay you for per video and stuff like that. And I was young. I was like, no, I don't need money. Just I'll give you the next video. You just put it out. So like loud, for example, Metal Injection, Gear Gods, and Metal Sucks. Like these three like magazines, they reached out to me with like an offer, like, okay, you do this and we'll like pay you for this and stuff like that. But then I didn't take the money, but I still gave them the videos, and I was like, okay, no, just put it out. I just want people to see like what sitar is. It's like I just want to make it like cool for like young people and show like all these guitar players that hey like we are also here. Like come on, like get done with this attitude thing. It's fine. Yeah. So like for it, I did it for like 2 years. Yeah, and I released a ton of videos, I shot, like I was shooting almost every month. I was learning songs and I was into this whole zone. And like I'm lucky it just ended up becoming a thing, a legit thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, the highlight was also watching you cover Meshuggah Bleed, because I was like,
Oh yeah.
how the hell did someone do that on a sitar?
Yeah,
But
actually,
then,
that was actually a challenge. Yeah, actually, the guitar player from Youth the Saint, he told me like, okay, I was like, okay, what do you guitar players do for practicing your picking hand? Because you guys can play really fast. And on sitar, there's just one string where you actually play the notes on. So you cannot sweep pick on one string, or you can do nothing. Like one string is like alternate picking. So it's like, okay, no, you just play Meshuggah, and like there's this one song. It's a nice exercise. And I was like, okay. And then he once sent me a recording which was at 132 BPM, which is like 20, 30 more than the original song. It was too fast, even than the original song. And I was like, he was like, okay, you play this, and when you play this, I won't play the guitar. Like he just, like said something like funny. And I was like, okay. And then I like again took it to my room, and after 1 month, I did it 5 BPM more than what he like sent me. It was even faster, like what he sent me. So yeah, I was like, okay, I'll release it. So it was just a fun thing. It was actually born out of a exercise. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
but I'm sure you'll agree. For you, like a highlight, and when I was watching this video, also for me, it was like blew my mind when you covered "Hardwired" by Metallica.
Oh yeah.
And you had Metallica talk about it during that jam session. What is that moment
man.
like?
Oh, bro, like fuck, like it's some surreal shit, man. Like I cannot believe, like I don't even think about this, because then it's like it just feels weird. Like it's not supposed to happen to like a 21-year-old sitar player, But it's like, I mean, I remember someone messaged me.
When you have James Hetfield talk during the jam session and say, hey, by the way, did you check that guy out play Hardwired on sitar?
Damn, man, like it's insane. Like, okay, so someone messaged me on Instagram saying, hey, dude, like, are you that guy who covers like Metallica and stuff? I was like, yeah. And then he was like, okay, you should check this video out. And I clicked on the video, and Metallica has these like tuning room videos, stuff where they, warm up for going on stage. So it was a video that was shot in Dallas. So I clicked on it, and I anyways watch Metallica videos because I love, like, even after 30, 40 years, they're just going in. So I just watched it, and at some point he just said it, and I paused the laptop, and I just like took 2 minutes to realize what the fuck had just happened. Like, this is James fucking Hetfield. Like, what the hell is happening? And who showed him? Like, how did he land? Like, he is James. He shouldn't even like be in the zone. Like, he shouldn't be on social media. He should be like relaxing, somewhere. I was like, who showed him this video? So yeah, I just lost my shit, man. Like, it's insane. Like, that's all I can say. I don't know like how it happened, when it happened. Like, it's just insane.
Okay, and of course, then came Mute the Saint, or while all this was happening, there was Mute the Saint. So, what was your biggest learning from Mute the Saint and that entire endeavor?
What's
your biggest learning from that?
I think there are 2-3 things I learned. The first thing is always work with people that are kind of in your age group. Like,
Okay.
okay, everyone in Mute the Saint was great. They're still good friends and I love them. They are extraordinary musicians. Everyone is amazing. But I was 19 and I was dealing with someone who's above 30, So there's like a generation gap. And of course, I'm at a point where I can take even financial risks. I have like my father who can like still, have my back. But
Yeah.
a guy who is 30 above, he has to earn. Like there's no like playing around when you are, above 25 or 30, you just have to go and do stuff. So like I was dealing with people who were too, like they had seen a lot more life than me. And the second thing I learned is if you are strong headed and you know exactly what you want to do, people don't like that. Like it's very hard to talk to a strong headed person because they are not influenced. They are their own influence. Like I know exactly where I want to reach and I welcome everything that comes to my road. Even if I have to live on a roadside tent, I'll do that. It's fine. It's everything is fine. There's no problem. But then people like they usually like no one likes a strong headed person. Like it's like that's what I learned like most out of that whole experience. But anyways, like it's all good, man. I love everyone has their own journey. I'm not supposed to live someone else's life. Someone else is not supposed to live my life. It's all fine. We can all exist as we are. So I learned all that stuff while I was in the band, and that is why we had to like it's just it was just too much happening too fast for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was still covering and then still writing the album and still going out and playing in clubs and in college festivals. So it was too fast for me. Like, yeah.
Right. And if I may ask, how much of
Mhm.
Mute the Saint is in Sitar Metal now?
Uh, Technically none. None. Like it's a new thing. Like, see, okay. So by 2017, Mute the Saint was like, I released the album and so I had kind of established the whole like idea. Okay, Sitar Metal can be an original thing. It's not
Yeah.
just a cover video thing. It's an original thing now. So, but like as I said, the age gap and like I was okay. Like, okay, here's the thing. Like, I could go out and do a show where there's no money and still get my point across. So that when I return the next time, maybe I'll get some money. So I can do that because I am young and I have my parents who are supporting
Mm-hmm.
me. So I could do that at that point. But those guys couldn't. And it's fine because they have families who support and stuff like that. So I get it. But then I just couldn't stop, man. Like if I stopped at that point, this day wouldn't have come, like where everything is happening like as exactly as I want. So if I had to just take some harsh steps and just get done with the whole thing. uh yeah, sorry, I just lost your question. I just can you repeat
No,
it?
No,
no,
so
no.
the
So I
question
said in
of,
terms of,
sorry, Peter, go ahead.
yeah. So sorry, I was just saying like in terms of not just the band, but like say in terms of the material or everything else
Mm-hmm,
that you had
mm-hmm,
going with Mute the
mm-hmm,
Saint. How much
hmm
of that has transformed into Sitar Metal, or just two separate entities completely?
yeah,
Because
it's completely different, man. Like I'll tell you why. Because when I was doing Mute the Saint, I was still into that zone that I have to prove that sitar is limitless. And that whole album was basically I was I was just showing off. I was showing off that okay, this is all I can do. Like no one can play this. I can play this on sitar. So that was the whole mentality. So to me, that is a very like immature like. But I respect it because at that point I was in that zone. So it's fine. Like wherever you are in the life at that point, you should write that kind of music. So Mute the Saint was just me like showing off. Okay, like I've established this whole thing now here. Like what I can do with the whole metal thing and the whole classical thing where I can take it. So that album was just me just shredding over a bunch of stuff that I wrote. Like that's all it is. It's like right now what it is, it's a whole different animal of its own. It's just everything is different from the way I wrote the song. Everything is a different thing. Mute the Saint was like, okay, I can play this thing that probably no one else will touch for the next 5 years. So I should record this right now. So like I was immature at that point, but I still love the album. I wrote every single thing, like, so I just love it. But yeah, it's what Mute the Saint was and what Sitar Metal right now is, it's just completely different. Even I am not the same person anymore. I don't relate. I don't watch my videos. I've never actually watched any of them like from front to end. I just don't relate to that thing. But I respect it totally because if I hadn't done that, this day wouldn't have
Yeah.
come. So
And I just briefly want to touch upon, because like with Sitar Metal you've got like a new lineup and stuff like that. How did you find it? Because you touched upon earlier having
mhm.
people who are your age group and like-minded members. So how
Yeah.
did that experience help you with finding members for Sitar Metal now?
Yeah, so after like after 2017, I just took like 1 or 2 years off, and I started doing the Arijit thing and stuff like that. So I just took break from the whole Sitar Metal thing because Mute the Saint disbanded, and like I was not like in touch with anyone else. So I just took time because everything was too fast anyways for me. So I did a bunch of stuff, but then I was always keeping an eye out for like young people I can like work with. I wanted to work with my age group, not like people 10 years elder to me. So yeah, I just found the first guy I found was Diparshi Roy from Calcutta, and he's like 21, like 21 or 22 right now, and he was just 21. So he is just like some other level. I always knew that guy, but I never messaged him. I just saw his videos and stuff, and he had this this, when you see someone, you just know like there's this X factor kind of thing. So I just saw that, and I always knew that okay, if someday I want someone to like come and join this whole thing, I'll ask him. And when I asked him, he was just up for it. And yeah, so I got Diparshi Roy on guitars, and the guy who plays the bass right now, Tushar, he's actually my childhood friend. We have got our teeth together, like we are young, and like we've been friends for a very long time. So he never played bass, but when I told him that, dude, like I don't want to work with a bass player who plays really well, but is not a good like dude.
Yeah.
You are a good dude. You can learn to play bass, so do it. So, and he's literally started learning the bass when I was writing the album, and right now he's touring with us. So yeah, it's like he's just a friend. Like that's the only reason like I wanted to get him in the first place. He's a good friend of mine. And the guy who's playing the drums with us, his name is Joel, and he's also from Calcutta, and he's the youngest one in the band. He's he plays the drums, and he's 19 years old. 18.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he's 18. He's actually sitting like a few feet away from me. He's 18 actually. And he's like you like I've not revealed his identity like totally, but when you hear this guy like yeah, like his work will speak. I don't need to say anything. Like he's just some X Factor guy. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all kids like who say outrageous things, and they just love having a good time in a band. Yeah, that's all it is now.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, man, it's too short of a life to like worry about anything else. Just go and have fun. It's fine.
Okay, great. So let's start talking about Sitar Metal in depth. But first, I'd like you to help us with the absolute basics. So, Rishabh,
Absolutely.
can you help our listeners understand the similarities and differences between a guitar and a sitar?
Wow. Damn. Oh, sure. So basically, sitar is an Indian classical instrument. It has been derived from the veena, which is like a very big version of a sitar. So sitar is like a modern take of the veena. So it's like a 300, 400-year-old instrument. It's not that old, like as people think it's like thousands of years old. No, it's not. It's like 300 years old. So sitar is basically, so in guitars you have like 6 strings or 8 string or 9 string or whatever, how many strings are enough. Like that is how many strings you have to play and produce notes. But in a sitar, you only have like one main string where you can do all the playing that you can. So essentially they're different in the first way they're different is in that way. Like on guitars, you have 6 strings to produce all the chords, notes and everything. And on sitar, you have just one string to do that. So, you can see like, obviously like on sitar, you just like, what can you do on one string, but still if the player is good, you can do that. And the second thing is, of course, the size. Like guitars are compact, sitar is a big instrument, and on sitar you have to sit and play. On guitars guitars also can sit and play, but sitar there's no way you can stand and play. There's just no way. You have to sit and play. Other than that, it's sitar is all like an acoustic instrument. There's no pickups, there's nothing. You can just like maybe put a contact mic, that's all you can do. And of course, in guitars, you have like tons of like options, like whatever pickups you want, whatever woods you want. Sitar is like, it's a handcrafted instrument. It's not made by companies. It's like a guy somewhere in a village, making a sitar. That's how, like, it's like everything is different. There's nothing except the music. Everything else is different. There's no fancy like strings or pickups. Like it's just some guy somewhere who made something and like you buy it. That's it.
Okay. Of course, in the recent past, we've seen, say, Niladri Kumar come up with a sitar where he's processing and distorting the sound that comes out for it, out of it. How about you? Have you tried, I don't know, down tuning or processing or distorting the sound coming out from your sitar? Any stories from that end or those experiments?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually super close to Niladri ji. Like, we've had like a few dinners as well, and he's been to our place as well in Punjab as well. Yeah, so basically, like, I'm a huge fan of his. First thing and foremost, like, I just love that guy. He has brought sitar to a new, like almost like a mainstream thing. Like Niladri Kumar is like goddamn, it's like Niladri Kumar, So like I had a dinner with him once, and we were in Bombay, and he just told me something, very subtle, which like stayed with me for a very long time. He was like, "Okay, I made this sitar, and you know what? It's done. Like, he should like no one should repeat like anything. He like that is what he was telling me low key. Like, don't like yeah, like what you are doing is great, but just don't come to like this because doesn't make sense. Like why would I do the same thing. So I think he himself knows, and that was a great advice for me because at some point every sitar player wants to put on distortion and like sound like Niladri ji, and it's amazing. But he just told me like, okay, what are you doing? Just keep doing that. It's going great. And he had heard like all the like Mute the Saint songs and stuff like that, so he knows everything. So yeah, and my personal thought is like, I don't want to change the sitar. Man. That's the whole reason I started the sitar metal thing, is to tell people like, if you go to a music store in anywhere in the world and you pick up a sitar, that's exactly the sitar that I use. Like I don't use anything special. I can do whatever I do on any sitar you give me. I don't have to like change anything or buy a special kind of sitar. So I wanted to make sure like every youngster who's coming up in India, they might not have money to go and buy like my like signature like whatever like model whatever. So it's the same sitar that I use and you use, and it's just what you do with it that can define who you are. So I just wanted to make the basic sitar structure more bring it more into the popular view, and like people should know, okay, this is how sitar looks, this is how it sounds, because a lot of times people call like a tanpura as a sitar, or stuff like that happens on airports. People say like, oh, ye tanpura hai. nahi, it's a sitar. So like it's that imagine like the kind of ignorance like a classical musician has to face. You don't even know, like India mein, okay, you don't even know like what a sitar is, and it's fine, but it just kind of bothers me sometimes.
Hey, I'm
So
a
that's
bass
why.
player. I'm a bass player, and I completely empathize with you. People keep
Yeah,
looking at
guitar hai,
my
हाँ,
guitar and
100
like, where are the rest of the
100%.
strings? And why is your guitar so fat? And I'm like,
Yeah. See,
bro,
man, like, yeah, this shit like never stops happening no matter what you
it's
do.
like
Har cheez guitar hai.
I feel
Everything
like
that is.
inserting a hashtag musician woes, Indian musician woes.
what
Yeah,
musician
man.
mode?
But just building on like what we're talking right now about the
Yeah.
sitar. I mean, when you
Mhm.
compare it to the guitar, does the sitar offer a bigger canvas to kind of play on, or
Yeah, I'll just mention at this point, I can just mention one thing which can just give you an idea of what all is possible. So, sitar is, it's not my claiming, like, it's not a claim, it's a fact. So, the fact is that sitar is the only instrument in the world where you can bend 5 notes from each fret. And that means you're not just an instrumentist, you're also a vocalist. You can do everything that a voice can do, you know. So sitar is the only instrument ever made that where it's possible to do this, where you can pull notes. Like on every fret that I land, I can pull 5 notes, and I can make like alabs, and like everything that the neck can do, I can do it on the sitar. So once you have unlocked the voice, then you can do anything. So the sitar is not only an instrument, it's also a voice. It's the only instrument that does that in the whole world. There's no second, not even a second. Like that's it. you know so
Okay,
now you can imagine like the things you can do. You can play riffs, you can play leads, but then you can also do vocals. Like what else do you need? Like everything is right here. So sitar is
yeah,
like absolutely limitless.
you don't need an octave pitch or something to
Nothing,
help you with
nothing,
it.
nothing. I can play like Coke Studio stuff also. Like I can play vocal like khayals and any song, anything. Like sitar is, you can do anything. It's totally up to the player.
Hmm.
right.
Okay. Um, Allow me to just veer off slightly. Does the
Mm-hmm.
sitar have any preconceived notions to it? As in, for most Indians, it still remains or is seen or is perceived as kind of an elitist instrument.
Yeah.
Uh, how does the Western world view this? And really, what's your take on what the sitar has come to mean as such in the general?
Yeah. I think the first thing that people like, of course, like the first thing is like no one hears it. Like no, the young people are not interested in hearing the sitar, and it's fine. Like it's fine. Like everyone, like this is the time, like which everyone is hearing so much music. Like I myself, I was just hearing the Travis Scott album this morning. Like no one hears sitar. So and I think what I would say is the only thing that went wrong for the sitar is not the audiences, not the people. It's the classical musicians themselves. And I'll just
Hmm.
explain this in breath to you because I think people need to know this thing. So if you say no one listens to the sitar, like, okay, what is the reason? Who did that? Someone must have had done that. Like, who is to be held responsible? And I am the guy, I'll even blame, but only the artist, never the audience. Never the audience. Because if I am an artist, I decide like, how can I make this thing reach out? People can hear anything. Like, okay, make a rule that from tomorrow onwards, on every news channel there should be 1 hour of classical music. Okay, and make this like a rule from tomorrow, and like do it for the next 1 year, and you'll see the change. You'll see the people will start hearing it. People can hear anything. You don't know how to present it. That's the whole thing. Ek time pe people didn't
But
have phones. Now everyone has a phone. Like, it's like, who did that? You presented it in a way which made it easier for people to grasp it. Another example, like if you go to a doctor and he says, "Ye jo medicine hai, this is very painful," you know. So what will be your reaction? Oh fuck! I wish don't have to take this. But what if he says this medicine is it's all good, nothing will happen, this and that? You'll go ahead and take it. So that is what needs to happen with music. Some youngster needs to come up in, especially in the classical world, and needs to tell everyone that, guys, calm down. Whatever you have heard about classical music, that it's difficult, it's elitist, it's not true. It's some fucked up classical musicians who did this because they wanted to profit off of it. But it's not the reality. Classical is all improvisation. It's all limitless. You can do anything. Anyone can do it. Like the guitar player of our band plays like almost as good as me. Like, imagine that. So like, it's yeah. So it's
I
just the
don't
player,
know.
man.
Humble brag.
Yeah, no, no.
I
No,
actually,
it does.
the only reason I also laugh is because I wasn't sure. Like, are you saying that now there's going to be like dual sitar in your band next? I don't know.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, we all options open, man. All options open. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying now. Like, so see, I cannot blame people, man, because if I blame people, then like in 2014 I was booed off stage. Okay, that happened in Hyderabad, and 3 years later I was headlining like in NIT Calicut, where there was like 6,000 people in the crowd, and I like everyone fucking lost their minds. So how did that? Who did that? I did that. So basically, it's on the player. Like, I decide if youngsters will hear this or not. Everyone is open to everything, yeah. Like, even a normal youngster, they eat so much different kinds of food in 3 days. They wear so much different stuff. Like, I have seen it happen in my shows. People come to a rock metal show. When they come to Sitar Metal show, they are wearing kurtas. Like, imagine in a metal venue, the cultural shift has started to happen. Like, people are wearing kurtas and coming in. Imagine. Like, so who did that? Like, so they are ready to accept it. You just need a guy who's like smart enough and who like throws away all the bullshit कि ये मुश्किल है, ये तुम लोग नहीं कर सकते, ये वो ही कर सकता है जिसने 10 साल सीखा है. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. There's nothing like this, यार. Like, only old people used to do it because like that was the only business model they knew. So if I have
No,
something,
and it's a very valid point you're bringing, because
Yeah.
I think that's probably how you maintained that, inclusiveness, where you only had that set group of classical musicians and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like if you want your thing to flourish, in old times there was no social media. You cannot like explain shit. So what you did was you just made a hype around it. कि ये बहुत मुश्किल है and only the selected few can do this, because that was the only thing you could earn from. Like, that was the only thing that people like. Why would someone go to your show? If you have a hype around it. But old people made this hype कि classic sitar बहुत मुश्किल है ये है. But right now I'm telling you, it's not. It's like easy. Like, anyone can come and play it. Yeah, it's as easy as everything. Like, everything is difficult if you make it difficult. Everything is easy if you make it easy.
Yep.
वो अलग बात है कि how much physical strain, like what happens. It's a different game. But like,
of course, all that comes with practice and just
yeah.
taking the
So it's like the
effort.
old people in the old people in classical music, I just blame them. Like, I am that guy who's shouting, "Okay, you guys did it." Like, the people who came, like the generation that came before us, did this. Like, you made this so difficult and so you scared the shit out of people. यार, लोग सितार सुन के भाग जाते हैं कि like, fuck, this is so difficult. And why are people playing guitars? Because how do guitar players present it? Oh, this is such a beautiful body. This is such a beautiful sound. है ना? And like classical guys, oh, ये तुम लोग कभी नहीं बजा सकते, ये ऐसे, ये सिर्फ मैं ही कर सकता हूँ. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are you doing this? You're scaring away people. So someone needs to change this whole tone. Okay, hey, everything is fine. Like, if you want to play it, you can come and play it. Like, it's all good. You don't need to be like a selected one. कि ये पैदा इसीलिए हुआ है. There's nothing like that. So someone needs to change this notion. Yeah.
Just shifting gears back onto Sitar Metal. I mean, you mentioned in a few places that you worked on this album for 14 months. So, for us who are laymen, especially me, just help us understand like music theory. How does the sitar fit into the progressive metal's soundscape? And are you restricted to particular scales or notes or such?
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of limitations, but my thing is I'm not focusing on limitations at all. I'm actually, a lot of people think I'm like trying to make this as a guitar. No, I'm not. I'm just playing what I know. It just happens to be that maybe it's like what the life I've led or the thoughts that in my head, it just comes out a certain way. I cannot pinpoint it out. Like I don't know what exactly it is, but it's just my sound. I'm not trying to be different. I'm not trying to be anything. It's just what comes out of me. And another thing is like what I've worked on. I used to play drums also I was a metal drummer as well for like 2 years in a band. So I learned that lifestyle also. Okay, how it's like to be a drummer. I know exactly what it feels, the pains that you have, and what stuff you can play. I used to cover Lamb of God and Slipknot and stuff like that. So I know that area also, and I played little bit of guitars to make some noise. Like I can do that, and a bass also. So I kind of know everything, and then when I go to the sitar, I take all that, like whatever little bit of knowledge I have, I take it and apply to sitar. Okay, what can I create on a sitar that will also not only sound good on a sitar but also on a guitar and drums? And I know that because I played those instruments, so I know what kind of beat, what kind of a groove would sound sick, and a drummer would also enjoy playing it. So I'm just not trying to be different. It's like it's my sound. Like I just love metal, and I've heard it for like 7 8 years, day and night. So what you hear is what you become. So yeah, I'm like equally of a classical musician, and I love metal equally. Like there's nothing ahead or behind anything. Everything's equal to me. So some days I wake up and it's like nothing comes out, and that's why it took 14 months. There's the entire album, like Sitar Metal album, all the 6 songs, they were technically written in like 3 or 4 days. Everything was composed, written, done, logged in 6 days. But it took 14 months because I was in a very depressive phase. I thought like I was like going out of my mind. And that's a whole different story why that happened. But out of those 14 months, only 6, 7, they were 6, 7 days when the songs came together on their own. I just woke up and I had this thing going on in my head. And I took it to the sitar. It sounded nice. I recorded it and I compiled everything and I sent it to the guitar player. You know, so yeah, that's how I write. Like it's all inspired. It's not like the writing that I'm doing right now is not to prove a point. It's just to enjoy music. I've done the proving in like music. I've showed everyone what all can happen. Like how fast and how technical, how whatever you want to see, you can go and look at it like there. But right now, Sitar Metal, it's about songwriting that is representative of my life, and is when I hit the stage with these songs. We already did like our first headlining show 3 days ago in IIT Ropar, and we saw the whole dream manifest right in front of our eyes. People just went nuts. Like imagine Punjabis headbanging to metal music. Imagine that. Like you can imagine the weight. So right now the songs, they are inclusive. They're not just me showing up. It's like fuck like whatever, fuck all that. It's like good songwriting that you will have a good time when you come to the show. You'll just lose your minds like we do on stage. Everyone thrashes around. We fall off stage. We are like breaking stuff and shit like that. So it's all happening. So right now the music is just supposed to be music. It's there's no point, there's no nothing. We just want to go out and have a good time and give people something that will move them and make them have a good time. That's all Sitar Metal is right now.
Okay. Okay. So, just staying on this composition point a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
um, how does it work? I mean, we've heard stories of how songs in Iron Maiden are written. It's generally Steve Harris getting a melody stuck in his head and humming it
Yeah.
over while he's figuring out the bass. That's one story we've heard. We've heard Metallica coming up with riffs in a riff bank and then assembling it all together
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
What's the process like with you? Do you come up with melodies in your head, then, as you said, go on sitar and try and figure it out, and then try and figure out how the rest of the band comes in? Or is it, I don't know, like, do you guys jam,
Yeah.
bring out ideas?
Yeah, now we have started to jam, but when this album was written, I was like alone in a room. Like I wrote
Huh.
everything. But you know what? I'll have to mention this. Like the guitar player of a band, the Percy Roy, like I have to hand it to this guy. Like I was so fucked up. I was like, and still it's the same thing. Like I'm kind of the same guy. Like if I have an idea, I'm sorry, man. Like it just needs to come out exactly like this. I know, like
Yeah,
there's obviously a better thing, but like what if the better is not required? I don't require better.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
This is exactly what needs to happen. And I think the Percy just got the point. Like I told him, like, okay, if a metal guy writes a metal album, it's gonna sound like a metal album. If a classical guy writes a metal album, there's always going to be a certain kind of a charm and a twist to it, that
Yeah,
no one can unlock, because you guys don't know where I am writing it from, where my thing is coming
exactly.
from,
Yeah, that's
because
what I'm
I've
trying
lived a life.
to ask.
Yeah.
What's that space?
Yeah. So it's just like me being like 12, 15 years into this classical thing, and then I'm writing a metal album. So there's going to be something that no one knows where it's coming from, because I have led that life. I know what classical is. And being a classical musician, I'm writing a metal album. So the way I approach my riffs, the way I approach my solos, the way I approach the grooves that I write, a lot of stuff is in talas. Like these guys, like I've not like told these guys, but it's like talas. Like there's one song, That Piece You're After, and the solo that I'm doing in that song is sorry, the song is called Beyond Me and Beyond You. So in the
Okay.
song, I'm doing a solo, the main sitar solo. It's actually in mattal. Mattal is a cycle of 9 beats.
Okay.
So these guys don't know that, but I know it. So I don't want to explain it to them, because they get it anyways. They know, like, okay, it's the nine
Uh,
groove, but for me it's a tala. And when I was writing that solo, I wanted the mattal to be played like while I was playing the solo. So that's like I'm applying my knowledge of classical and the feel and the vibe of metal. Like, okay, will this sound heavy? Will this sound like will it have that same amount of energy that I have it in my mind? Like, how can I bring that out? So, like, that's when the guitars and the bass and the overall thing comes in. And so, like, I wrote the music and I would send it to Dipashi, and I was like, okay, this is the riff. If you think you can find a better, or like some cool way around it on a guitar, like obviously I cannot tell him like what to play, because I don't play a guitar. I don't know how he will translate it to a guitar, but I
uh,
can tell him, okay, this is what I need to hear, and now you find a way around it. So it was totally his call. Like there's a riff in When Time Stands Still, which is like a very funky kind of a riff, and like yeah, he just got it. He just nailed it, and he never like asked any questions like why should I do it, and he just got it. Okay, hey, this is something. This not like it's not just we're doing something normal. There's something special happening here. Let it manifest. It's fine. Everything doesn't. We don't need to sound like contortionists. Or we don't need to sound like anyone else. It's fine. They're doing it. Why do you want to be like the second Parkway Drive? There is one that already exists.
yeah.
Be the first Sitar Metal. It's fine. If it sucks, it sucks. If it sounds great, it sounds great. But we are not going to change anything, like at all. That is why there's a rap out of nowhere, because by the end of writing of this album, I was a huge fan of like Travis Scott and stuff like that. So I wanted to hear raps. I was like, okay, let's put rap in it, because again, that is the same thing. No rules for me, yeah. If I want to write a fucking reggae album, I'll do that. I don't give a fuck, like, because no rules. Again, like it's too short of a life to worry about rules. Like I don't want to do it. I've done it, but I don't want to do it. So yeah,
Okay.
it's just organic understanding and trust. And the Percy, like everyone in the band just trusts like me with, like this whole thing. So I'm just super lucky for that. Like I finally like this is happening. And it's not like I'm like a fucking dictator. Like right now we have started already writing like a new album, and we are jamming, and within a day we are coming up with like 5-10 song ideas. So it's like that fast. Like this is the team that we have right now. Everyone is just gets it.
Lovely. Okay, and allow me to pick your brain on this one a bit more. So,
Uh-huh.
when you're approaching it, and you're approaching it through various talas and various
Mm-hmm.
ragas, etc.,
Yeah.
has this process of creating metal music using a
Mm-hmm.
classical instrument, has it made you more appreciative of the depth that in a classical music has to offer? Because you're going back to the basics to try and see what can be done with all of this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, in a way, I mean, uh, hear me out when I say this.
Yeah, get your point.
It's
I get your
because
point.
of, yeah, it's because of all that effort that you've put in is why you're able to go back and destroy the rules.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So what you said is exactly right. Like when you start, there has to be like, someone has to hold the cycle so that you don't fall down, like
Mhm.
that has to happen. But once you know how to ride, then fucking will go anywhere, bro. Like go start hiking on a cycle. It's fine. So that is how I look at music also. When I started, I had to put rules like, nay, this album has to sound this way. It has to sound fast. It has to sound chaotic. It has to show off what a sitar is. So I did Mute the Same. That was the whole idea exactly behind it. And this time I had seen like, I had like, even with Arijit, I had seen so much of the world. I was in like fucking 4 or 5 continents, and I was playing, and I was like, wow, there's so much to the world, man. There's so many sounds I can use. Why am I, like I've done it. Now it's time for me to like rethink the whole thing. That is why I took 1 year off, and like got a new team. And as you said, with the instrument also, like now when I pick up a sitar today, like you won't believe the feeling that I get is like, damn, I'm so lucky. Like I exist in two opposite worlds, and I'm the like the only star player who's like enjoying this thing. Like I can go out on a stage, sit on stage, have a nice kurta, put pan in my mouth, and play for like 2 hours, whatever the fuck I want. And the next second day, I can go to like a festival stage, you know, wear like the most weird shit, play fucking hardcore metal, bang my head, almost break it, and thrash around with my friends, have a good time, and then come back. Like it's two opposite worlds, like like, and I'm so lucky that I get to do this. It's like I cannot describe it. It's just a trance you are in. Like these two worlds, and both of them, I'm lucky. Like I saw my like I was booed off stage. I my sets were cut short. I've seen people not even clap after any song after like I played 4 5 songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen all that, and now like after I kept going, and now it's the time like everything is at bliss. I'm not saying those times are over. I'm ready to welcome those even again. It's fine. I don't give a fuck. But it's just a nice place we are operating from, and it's all peace now. We have nothing like we just want to go and do it. Like whatever we feel, we'll go and have a good time. That's all.
Okay. What about the sound itself? I mean, the tone and the overall mix, etc.
Mm-hmm.
How does one? How much time did it take for you guys to kind of figure out where the sitar should sit front and
Yeah,
center
yeah,
in a metal band?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's a
So
completely whole challenge in itself, right?
yeah. So out of the 14 months that I told you about, 5 or 6 were gone just on the mixing part because I was working with Adhiraj.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like Hadiraj is amazing. He's like also one of those next level guys. He knows what he's doing. He's great. But like of course I cannot expect him to know what a sitar should sound like because he's not a sitar player. Of course, like I
Yeah.
don't know what a bass should sound like eventually because I'm not a bass player. I've not lived that life of a bass player. I don't know what is the best tone, what is the best way to play it and present it in a mix because I don't know that life. So my thing was like no one like even Adhiraj took some time to like get it because it's like, dude, like this is the only like okay of all the albums ever made. This album has Sitar fronting it for the first time, and I proudly say it for the first time. So, what is the problem in having it slightly louder? जब आप Steve Vai का album सुनते हो, do you complain कि guitar is loud? No, you don't, because it's a Steve Vai album, है ना? It's a Joe Satriani album, so the guitars are supposed to be heard properly.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
the problem in giving the same importance to a sitar in a sitar album? What is the problem? Like फिर क्या होगा अगर if it's slightly loud? What is the problem? You don't hear like a drummer solo album and then say, यार ये drummer का solo album तो अच्छा है but the keys are too low. अरे dude, it's not about keys. It's a drum album. Hear the drums. Fuck, like shut up and just hear it. So, but still, I was very careful. I didn't want to like bash people's faces with the sitar. So what I did is I recorded 3 layers for each song. So sitar is
Okay.
basically 3 layers. So the riff sections are left and right. They are hard panned.
Okay.
And when the solo
Ah.
comes
All
in,
right.
solo takes the center spot because I don't want to like all the time center, center, center. I don't want to do it. I myself don't like it. I don't like
Ah.
sitar. It gets annoying after like 5-10 minutes. So I was very careful this time. Okay, left and right is the riff sections, breakdowns, whatever you want to do, left and right. When solo comes in, take the center spot and like go and do it. Because I think in instrumental music, the solos are the lyrics of the song. It's the whole point of the song.
Yeah.
So if that is not being heard carefully, then like there's no point to the whole song. Like there has to be a section where everything is revealed in a song. In my songs, that is the solo section. I tell you the whole story of the song. Okay, this is what the whole song is about, and then everything after and before it is like like a prelude or something like that. The solo is the main thing in the song. Like this is the whole essence of the whole song.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So allow me to just wrap up on Sitar Metal a bit.
Sure.
For all its for what it's worth, Sitar Metal seems to be the culmination of a part of your life where now you've successfully managed and learned to marry two worlds. It's sort of,
Yeah.
if I can say it's, I would view it as the honeymoon to your marriage. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Say sorted. Sounds
How do you
fun.
plan to keep the marriage alive, say 10 to 15 years down the line? In simpler
Mm-hmm.
terms, what's the next evolution going to be like? You've done your showing off.
Yeah.
आपने ऐश कर लिया गर्लफ्रेंड के साथ. अभी
Yeah.
now you're successfully married. Whole new beginning.
Man, my thing is my girlfriend just understands me, man. It's like she gets it. So I know nothing ever is going to go off rails. Like, you know what? Like, what is happening right now? I just have these spurs of ideas every day. Like, since like when we released the first video when time sensor, like everything, like people just got it. And you know how much of a boost is it for a creative person when people get what you're doing? Like,
Yeah.
they just got it. Like, fuck, this guy's doing tapping and this and that on sitar. Like, so you know, like my thing is right now, I know like if I sit with the sitar today, I can make like 10 songs and they'll sound like those 10 songs. It will not sound like anything else because it's coming from a sitar, you know. So right now I know like there's just no stopping at all for sitar metal. Even on the like bands, you know, like the team we have for business point and you know like the front like the live sound. Even we have a dedicated sound engineer right now. So everyone is on the same page. We sat down, we speak every day, we discuss ideas, we discuss, you know, big picture stuff. Everyone talks about everything. There's nothing hidden. Everyone gets it and like everyone has a good time. It's not like they're just doing sitar metal because it can get like a few more clicks than some other band in India. No, they're doing it because they genuinely go crazy when they hit the stage with those riffs and those, you know, those songs. So that is where sitar metal is at. And when this is the case with any band, like you know what we did, like you'll trip out, man. Like, so we have always played with a click, but on our
Yeah.
first headlining show in an open air venue, which we did like 3 days ago, we were like, let's go without clicks, no backing tracks, no nothing. Let's just go out and just play like Metallica, Slipknot style, no clicks, no nothing. Plug in and just start playing. And like we have the whole set recorded, and we are releasing a video on 20th November of the whole set, like a live video, like uncut live video.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, like everyone is afraid of doing that because you know artists like kind of like nahi isko mix karte hain, iska ye iska wo. We were like, no, nothing, like record it as it is and just fucking put it out. And now when we came back and heard the whole set, you won't believe, it's like a produced live album. It sounds that good without backing tracks, without clicks.
Lovely. That's
Yeah, so this
excellent to
is
hear.
how on, yeah man, this is how on point everyone is in the band. So you can see like this thing is not stopping, like unless you know like I have a second car crash. Like this is gonna go on forever. Like,
No, man. No, everything will be good. Touch wood. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
everything should be great. And honestly, we can't wait to check out the live album. You say it's dropping out
yeah, yeah, yeah.
20th
Yeah,
November?
so yeah, it's not an album. Like we are releasing like a YouTube video. It's like a
Okay.
45 minutes full
All right.
set video. Like we come on stage and till the time we leave, everything is uncut. It's all rolling. Everyone can see what's happening, and it's
Wow.
like the audio has been taken from the board, so it's
Wow.
HD audio. Yeah,
That takes balls to do.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like we just did. Like, and you know what? Like, of course, I'm not saying like, of course, at some points you fuck up, and it's fine. It's fine. What's the
Yeah. Of
use of
course.
life
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
perfect? Like, show the flaws also. It's fine. Everything's good.
True. Right. Just to kind of wrap up with a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do classical trained sitar players and the purists kind of view what you've done on sitar metal? And
Dude,
similarly, what?
yeah. They're
Go
afraid of it, bro. Yeah, yeah. No. Like I'll tell you, like I like know all the star players. I'm friends with like luckily most of them and whatever. Yeah, man. Like all I have is like they are thankful. Like and that's like I cannot say anything more. Like they're thankful. Like this is happening. And you know, like young people are now like there's a lot of young guys who someone from like I think there's a guy in Lonavala, like he reached out to the maker who made my sitar and he said, मुझे वैसा सितार बना के दो exactly जैसा ऋषभ सीन के पास. Like this has started to happen. Like, there's now this thing happening, and so yeah, man. I don't think about all that anytime, but like whenever I've heard anything, it's like they are super happy that I'm doing this. So like that's all I've heard so far.
Hey,
Nothing
you
And how
bad,
would
can
you
nothing.
compare?
you can buy Sachin Tendulkar's bat, but you can't bat like Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
But I must add on to that question. How is their reaction compared to the average metalhead's reaction to sitar metal?
I would say like I would say it's 60-40, like 60% like metalheads on my side, like 40% classical musicians on my side. Like I have more support from the metal guys because of course like hey, if I start to do something weird with like a sitar, of course at first like Niladri ji told me this thing when I was having dinner with him. Like Pandit like
Yeah.
Jasraj ji, who's a great vocalist, he actually never approved of Niladri Kumar playing the sitar when
Yeah.
he first started out. But 10 years later, his company, I think they do the Idea Jalsa concert, and he gets Niladri ji in every concert. Like Niladri ji is playing in every concert. So you know, like of course, in the starting, someone might not get what you are doing, but hey,
Sure.
over time, life happens, stuff happens in someone's life, and you one day you wake up and you're like, hey, everything is fine. He's doing his thing, man. He's not supposed to do what I do. He's supposed to do what he should be doing in his life. And so people slowly get it, and it's fine. Like, but yeah, metal people are like more on like my side. Like it's 60-40 for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Lovely.
And our last question, because we've been
Sure.
talking
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot,
yeah.
is we want to
Yeah.
play a track from Sitar Metal, which will help our listeners, understand and kind of contextualize this whole conversation we've been having for the past hour or so.
Mhm.
So, which track should we
Mhm.
play and why?
Damn, this is a checkmate, bro.
The toughest question for the last.
uh, which song? Hey, I would choose When Time Stands Still. Like that
Okay.
song is like the essence of sitar metal. Like it has its fair share of tricks and whatever, like some technical shit, but it's like a legit song. It has a nice beginning, and that song, like I think that was probably the last or the first. I don't remember like what's second last song that I wrote on the album, and I wanted to write an album like a song which is it's just like a story. It starts with tapping. It's very mellow when it starts, and it's like a journey. You keep going, keep going, keep going, and then there's a little bit of chaos in middle, and then when the last chorus hits, which also has a voiceover in my voice where I've said something, when that hits and you hear the next part, it's like you're floating in the air, like everything got solved. So it's like my life story kind of. It was very chaotic in the beginning, and then middle may there's a funky riff, and that shows like the glorious part that I saw in my life. Like I got to earn money and I got to play and stuff like that. But then another like and the technical part happens, then the difficulties come again, and then I say something, and that's me telling myself that everything's going to be right, and then the chorus hits, the last chorus, and it all resolved. So that song is like the vibe, the entire story of my journey since 2014 to like this point. That song is like the soundtrack of the whole life that I've led in the past 4-5 years.
All right.
Wow. Okay. All right. Rishabh, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you so
Same here, man.
much for your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
must say, man, you've got for how young you are, you really don't sound that young. I think you're far more
Yeah.
mature than that. And oh my God, just I hope that
Nah,
energy of
man.
yours doesn't dissipate anytime soon.
No, man. I'll just keep at it. That's all I've got. So I'll keep at it. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to hear that from you guys. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Right.
Thank you.
There he was, a man ahead of his time. Never with words, but with a vision he will end the divide. Now when the time stands still in the darkness filled with light, hold my hand and step within something he left behind.
So, the question that I asked at the beginning of the episode, what is Indian metal? Is this Indian metal?
I think this is Indian metal in 2019, according to Rishabh Seen, because a lot of what he talked about, and he puts great context into where it's coming from, where his music is. It'll be interesting just to see in 2-3 years what he thinks about it. Him looking back at this,
We should have actually asked him that if he thinks this is Indian metal or not. Anyways, that's a question for Rishabh to answer. That's also a question for all of you there to answer. So why don't you hit us up? We're at HonsupPod on Twitter. You know our individual IDs. Peter,
I'm Trend Crusher.
I'm at Asmoani. Hit us up. What do you think Indian metal is? Is there something called Indian metal? Should there be something called Indian metal? And yeah, if you actually have something valid to say, maybe we'll get you on the show. That's throwing a carrot at you. Eat that carrot, fuckers. Till the next time. Horns up.
Horns up.